So I thought we would do one more video about the Xbox Showcase, and I thought we would get it from one of the best fanboys ever, Harmon Smith, our favourite Nintendo fanboy, as he's made an absolute banger video around the showcase, and I can't pass up the opportunity for free salt to land in my lap so I can use it. As I think this will be the last time that we really need to talk about this Xbox Showcase at all, because this is pretty much where the information just dies off and no one really cares about it anymore. At least when it comes to the fanboy side of things. So without further ado, let's take a look at Harmon's video.
So the Xbox Showcase was a load of crap.
So I should probably mention this in the video before we actually get started with Harmon's video, but I had to skip around 40-50 seconds into his video as he has a new intro that pretty much takes up all that time, which is just one giant music video that's saying Nintendo's better and whatever else. And knowing how YouTube's copyright laws work and how they handle that stuff, I don't want to risk a chance of getting copyrighted over something that may or may not be AI work. And since I'm sure someone will probably mention and want me to talk about it slightly, I might as well just mention it here, and that's what I think of it. It's nothing important, it's just something funny that he probably made up to annoy people.
Right. Not surprising anyone, but right now, like, game journals and YouTubers are trying to come out and say it was great.
Well, are they wrong? Pretty much anyone that is an Xbox fan or fan of gaming pretty much got whatever they want out of that showcase, even though I may not agree with a lot of the things people have said about this showcase, how it's like the greatest showcase ever. I think it's a bit of an exaggeration from some people, but a lot of people just seem to enjoy the experience of this showcase. They didn't waste your time, they just showed game after game after game repeatedly, and all of them were either gameplay or good cinematics around that gameplay. And calling people shills because, oh no, they liked a showcase that isn't Nintendo's is such a good way to make sure that people will absolutely believe in your argument, Harmon. I can absolutely assure you, the more you say this, the more people will actually love your content and not use you for free money and views. And it's also kinda ironic that you call people shills when you're the same guy that's been shilling for Nintendo for how many years now? Like, come on, you can't call someone a shill and then not look at yourself.
They're probably trying to do a pendulum shift thing, you know, like, the way this typically works is that people realize that Xbox or PlayStation are garbage.
I would argue in their modern state that both Sony and Microsoft are having what I would call either their best or worst generation yet. On one hand, Sony's got a lot of consoles sold, but not many games on that platform to support them. And for Xbox, they're doing okay with Game Pass. Not the best, not the worst, but they're getting there. They're doing something at least. And I'm probably going to guess what you're going to say with this little analogy that you're trying to cook up in your backwards brain, saying that, oh my god, everyone's realizing that Xbox and PlayStation are bad, everyone's gonna come to Nintendo. Some people would just prefer having a more powerful platform to play their games on than a handheld that hasn't got its newest iteration yet for some time now. We're still waiting for that Nintendo Switch 2 that will actually compete with the Steam Deck.
And they just switch over to the other one, right? This has been happening since the 90s. But now we're in dangerous territory where people are beginning to realize that Nintendo is better than both. And one
L-take, PC is better than every other platform because you don't have to pay for online and you can save so much more money through just emulating or buying games on key sites. Seems like a very L-take, you know what I mean?
Once that happens, there will be no recovery for the gaming sphere, right? Gaming journals have to keep people locked into the two console system. They have to keep jumping between PlayStation and Xbox.
Harmon, do you know why people always bring up the two console bullshit, right? That's because Nintendo doesn't compete in the same sphere as the other two companies. They do their own thing, they have their own market. Now they're competing with other companies that are trying to take over that market. Like, for example, Steam. They made their own Steam Deck, the ROG Ally, all these other things. That's why you don't see Nintendo usually in the same argument or conversation with people when they talk about PlayStation and Xbox. How can you not understand that?
To continue supporting the toxic third-party developers that have been enabling them for the past 30 years. Again, it's all a conspiracy, bro. Like, this has been very well documented. This is...
What type of schizo conspiracy theory is going on in your brain to say that third-party developers are the problem, and saying that AAA first-party is going to be the fix and be-all, end-all of the gaming industry? That seems like the most schizo take you've had so far. Like, what's the problem with third-party? They add more games to your repertoire of games on your platform that are also available to many more people if they're not doing an exclusive game.
It's real, is what I'm getting at. But again, there have been a couple of really interesting things in regard to the Xbox Showcase that I do feel like I need to talk about. You know, Doom. clearly out of ideas. You know, like I said this when they made Eternal, right?
They're out of ideas. Doom the Dark Ages. That seems like they're out of ideas. Am I right, guys?
Like it really does feel as if the creators have no idea how to proceed going forward.
I'm not the biggest Doom player, but from what I heard, Doom Eternal, for most people, was a great step forward, so I think it's in relatively safe hands, even though I do agree that the controversy around how they handled the guy that did the music, that was pretty annoying. And I would like him to return to do the music again, as I thought that Doom music was absolutely banger, but I don't think that's gonna happen.
Right, like Doom Eternal felt nothing like classic Doom, and the Dark Ages seems even more of a regression. Right, it just seems even less like Doom than it was before.
I don't know about you get to tickle and kill demons without their consent, so it still seems like Doom for the most part. It's still rip and tear and do whatever else you want to do in Doom, so I don't really agree with that statement. There are some people that have some genuine concerns and criticisms of the new games. They're very far and few between. But this, what you're presenting here, is not one of those genuinely good criticisms that can convey to anyone that you're about to make any sense. I think this is my biggest problem with you, Harmon. You don't really give much commentary or add much evidence to what you're trying to say. You just say, oh, it's a regression. You don't really tell us why it's a regression from whatever game or franchise you're playing. Like, is the combat worse? Is the gameplay worse? There are so many things you could look at where it's genuinely improved. I watch enough Doom gameplay from people doing other commentary videos, and it looks fun, fast-paced, and I've played a very small amount myself. And I've also played a bit of old Doom myself. I can see where they've made absolute strides in keeping somewhat true to some gameplay. You can see where they've innovated upon with that gameplay and what features they've taken from old Doom, put into new Doom, and the stuff they've kept consistent across the board with Doom that makes it Doom. For some reason, you can't describe that or call it out. Why is that? You say old Doom is better, but you don't say why it's better. What did they change that you dislike? You do this with every little piece of criticism you have towards that something that isn't Nintendo, and you just leave it at that, with no proof, no evidence, and no further context on what you're trying to say. This is why no one will ever take you seriously.
And I keep getting flack for saying this, but Doom is an IP that really has lost its identity and really has no business continuing to be made and supported.
I'm sure you would disagree on that if it was a Nintendo IP, and exclusive to Nintendo. I'm sure you would say how much you would love this, and how much you would tout it as being the next best shooter.
Right, like I was so frustrated with the sheer amount of people who try and tell you that Doom Eternal, and even Doom 2016, were great games, some of the best we've gotten in recent years, when in reality they're nothing special and nothing worth talking about.
Ew, he looks like he's enjoying drinking out of that really crusty cup. Ooh, I think I froze the video at the right time. I shouldn't have paused there. I'm seeing something that I didn't want to see. Harmon looks like he's going real at it, giving it that big suck. I also grabbed this other one. He looks like a really thirsty beached whale. I don't know why I wanted to bring that up, but he just looks like he's ready to get a big gulp of that water. You know, he going for that sponge grind set, and I like that about him. Also, your cup looks really dirty. Clean that shit out. Also, if anyone also wants these, let me know in the comments and I'll send it to you via Discord or whatever.
I greatly dislike the hype and enthusiasm these games get. But anyway, that has been a commonly stated opinion of mine. People know this, like how I feel about Doom. What do I feel about Perfect Dark? Right, because this is an interesting IP. Started on Nintendo hardware, Rareware, one of the last created N64 games, better than Halo Combat Evolved, right?
Okay, that was a really hot take. I don't know about you, mate, but I think personally, Halo Combat Evolved's gameplay was so far ahead of its time. It's still pretty fun to play this time, pretty basic, but it's still really enjoyable to sit down, because it still feels good to play. It doesn't feel outdated or janky for the most part.
Perfect Dark was an interesting game because it really showcases just how Halo destroyed the FPS genre. Because we went from cool, innovative, creative level design and mechanics in FPS games, with Perfect Dark, to some of the most generic, uninspired slop imaginable 9 months later in Halo.
I really just wanted to use that little sad rat meme. I couldn't help myself. That's kinda how I feel listening to Harmon, and how it kinda feels listening to him talk, and all those amazing cool things I could look down on him for. But to say that Halo is not innovative, I think is completely disingenuous. Halo was relatively innovative for its time. Its gameplay still relatively holds up till now. I can still go back and play Halo 1 and have a great time. Its control scheme was mainly one of the big things that also helped put the Xbox on the map. There were many games that happened on the Xbox, but that right there was a good example of how you can sell people on a console with one singular game.
Right? The original Perfect Dark is an absolute classic, and it's often overlooked purely because Halo came onto the scene on a new console, like, not long after its release, right?
Harmon, you know it's okay to like both of these IPs, right? You can like Halo and Perfect Dark. I know you won't admit that you like Halo, because, you know, you despise anything that isn't Nintendo, but come on, you can like both. Both can be fun and innovative.
Objectively speaking, Perfect Dark is better, with much more interesting mechanics. It respects your intelligence more. You know, I've talked more about GoldenEye over the years because I'm much more familiar with it, but there's no denying that Perfect Dark was a cut above the rest of the FPS industry for a very, very long time, and honestly probably still is in a lot of ways.
I can't really comment on this, as I haven't really played Perfect Dark at all that much. I've played like 5 minutes of it, uninstalled it, and never touched it again. Maybe I should go back and play it to see if Harmon's right.
The reason I bring this up, the reason I'm so passionate about this, is because right now, e-grifters and the conservative, the censorship, well, maybe we shouldn't call them conservative, the censorshitters, right? The people who are, like, blaming DEI for all the problems in the gaming sphere, they're coming out trying to say, like, Joanna Dark isn't attractive anymore. Man, she's not sexy. Yeah.
Well, Harmon, they did give her that Mary Jane jawline. That shit was kinda scary to look at. But aren't you the same guy that's had this similar criticism over things being woke as well? I don't think this would be something that you would bring up and say, oh, look at these other people, when I swear I've heard you in the past do the exact same thing.
So, to see people try and, like, come back and cope and try to say that, like, well, oh no, this is what character designs looked like 19 years ago. Yeah. It was embarrassing then.
I don't know, I kinda prefer old character designs. They seem way more interesting depending on what time period you get them at.
That is the long and short of it. The reason why we don't get characters like this anymore is because it's embarrassing, right? Like you should go into creating female characters with more in mind than simple sexualization.
I swear to God you were the same guy making fun of this shit when other companies did it, but now that it's a game or franchise that you may like, you see it as a bad thing. I swear I'm not high, I swear you've criticized this before. Harmon, if we can't have hot ladies in video games, we can't have people and all the men from like Gears of War being that big brolic black and scary, like Coltrane. Peak male fantasy. I wish I was him. He's got the exact same grind set and mindset as me. He's literally me. If we can't have pretty women, you can't be Coltrane. I'm sorry.
Right? You know, Joanna Dark was a more likable character in the first game. And you would know this if you had actually played both.
I'm assuming you're only saying this because that was when it was on Nintendo. If it was all on Nintendo, you would like all of them regardless. Am I right? I don't need to keep repeating myself because we all know how this is gonna go.
Right? Because it ushered in, like, the Xbox 360 era. It killed Rareware, one of the greatest studios in gaming history.
Are you telling me you didn't like their absolute masterclass game, Viva Pinata? I actually played that again recently on emulator. Shit kinda goes hard. I can just turn my brain off and watch all these little pinatas kill each other. It's kinda cool. Sadistic little bastards, aren't they?
Right? Like, again, like, when I think back on Perfect Dark Zero and everything it did, like, I don't have fond, happy memories of it. Like, it was the beginning of the decline, which has nothing to do with DEI or the wokeification of gamer culture, but...
I swear, my brain is about to have that sad rat moment again. I am going to lose it. I'm just going to leave the video here. Harmon, you're making me lose my mind. My brain just doesn't work. I want to save it for the Elden Ring DLC that's going to come out, what is it, like 16 hours from now? Let a man just have his prick. I want to watch you criticize that Elden Ring DLC for being bad. I'm seeing a lot of positive reviews about it. But then again, that creature from Kotaku got to review it, so I shouldn't have too much faith that those reviewers are actually giving honest reviews. How do you compare an Elden Ring DLC to your life? Because you go on Twitter. You know what, that's really out of context, and this is off topic, so I'm just going to leave the video here. I'll go over mental breakdown over that somewhere else and some other day. You all take care and have a great day.